superheroes meet high fashion. In conjunction with the Red 5 Network, we're proud to present comics and cosmetics.
Without any further ado, today we are diving into professional makeup designer and makeup artist Brian Sipe. Hey there, Nerdlings, and welcome back to my channel. As I just told you from the future, this week we're doing things a little different. We have a very special guest, and I am so excited to bring him on. He is the talent behind some of your biggest nerdy favorites. He's an award-winning makeup artist and designer, and I just can't wait anymore to bring him on. I would like to introduce you all to Mr. Brian Sipe.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Oh, we're
Hi.
Brian, hi.
Hi.
I've been so excited about this. I've probably made my family miserable for the last month. So thank you again for coming on my little corner of the internet. I truly, truly appreciate it. And if you will look right there on that clipboard, I've actually printed out what you emailed me, the Ahsoka stuff, and I've got it hanging right there. Like, that's how excited I am. That's how big.
Yet? Have you put that together yet, or
not yet?
Yeah,
that's on the list. That's on the list, and my 13-year-old's like, guinea pig.
Yeah,
let's do it. But that's how big of not just a comic book nerd I am, but a makeup nerd. So,
well,
Brian, I mean, like I just said, you were behind some of nerd culture's favorite character looks. And your resume is so long and impressive that it took me about a good afternoon to just, and I kept reading it going, what? This too? Oh my God. I've compiled, what I consider a short list of some of what we'll call your greatest hits. Key and Peele, Workaholics, Sleepwalkers. That's fantastic. I love that crazy.
Bizarre. There's a bizarre.
What did you do on Sleepwalkers?
Sleepwalkers, we had the end sequence when the two changelings go to cat kind of creatures. They're, I think they have a fiery ending, and myself and another artist, David Barton, we all worked for a company called Tony Gardner's Altarian Studios, and we together made these cat puppets that would kind of look like they were, hugging each other goodbye, and they burn. And the skins were made of gelatin. We had mechanics in there so that the gelatin would just melt. And
really,
yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I'm just gonna say it. I'm 41 years old, and next on this list is The Craft.
Yeah.
So that. I saw The Craft. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I need to call my graduating class, like all the girls, and be like, guess what?
I think that one we did. Yeah, it's weird because we do a lot of the places that I work in some of these companies. We do you jump in onto little shows like that or a show like that and do a couple of things. It's like Robin's Handcast, and then like Scars and things like that. So it's weird that a lot of these, it's like, oh yeah, I think I was on that.
That is a huge movie for my generation. Huge. Yeah. There's probably millions of new Wiccans out there. Because of that movie alone, and you contributed, so your fault. Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
The Abyss. I mean, Speed, Bicentennial Man, these are no tiny movies. A Beautiful Mind, Master and Commander, Pirates of the Caribbean, Van Helsing, Passion of the Christ, Apocalyptico, Terminator Salvation, Star Trek. I'm a huge Trek nerd, so we just went over that. X-Men
Okay.
Apocalypse, Oscar Isaac, God love him, and Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I have to ask, was it difficult working around Drax's sensitive nipples?
No, he actually he lies about that, and he really likes them reptiles, and yeah.
That's fantastic. Good to know. Good to know. Oh, we could. I mean, spend this whole interview just reciting your resume. It's incredible. I'm like almost every important movie in my life is on this list. It's so cool. And yeah, I'm including Sleepwalkers because that gives me nightmares.
Yeah,
I was raised by Stephen King fans, and so they're like, "Oh, new Stephen King movie. Let's watch it."
Let's watch it. She'll be okay.
Okay, so we'll just chronologically, what inspired this profession for you? I mean, were you always creative, imaginative, drawing, that kind of thing? Like, would you call this a passion for you at an early age?
At an early age, no. I mean, I remember being, I think everybody was heavily influenced with Star Wars when that came out, and a friend of mine would draw a lot, so I think I started to draw because of him, and that didn't necessarily go anywhere, other than I felt that I maybe started my, artistic muscle flexing, but I think the first time that I ever really thought of makeup as a thing was, the few years when, like all these movies came out, American Werewolf in London, The Howling and all this stuff, Halloween, there's that whole genre of stuff that like just exploded. I think it was 1981 was the John Carpenter's The Thing remake. And that movie I watched a lot, and then, when I found out who did it, then it was kind of watching, learning about, Rob Bottin, and then, looking at then like the Brick Bakers, the Steve Johnsons, and those movies. I was also as a kid kind of interested in magic and I guess fooling people, and my dad traveled for work, and he picked up a magazine. It was the Cinema Fantastique with Rob Bottin on the cover, and bought it. And I just remember reading it, and just blown away. And then going to magazine stands, finding the other magazines, Fangoria, Cinefex, and reading all of those. But in that one Cinema Fantastique issue, there were like these little in the thing, there were like these little drawings, I think, that an artist named Mike Plug did, and it kind of was like this Mad Magazine version of like how that head worked. And but for some reason that like struck in my mind, oh, this is a job, people do this and they can, that's a job. Right. So that's kind of like when I started moving in that direction. And then ever since then, it's eat, sleep, drink, repeat.
So was it safe to say that at that moment, that's pretty much when you realize, like, this is your path, this is what you should be doing?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's always been my favorite thing about watching movies is, and I get really bad about it, like looking for seams, like, okay. And I'm not looking for seams to bust anybody. I'm looking like, okay, now I know they put it there and then they did this. Okay, got it.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, that's a good way to learn, just so you can kind of just notice how people do things, how people that you look, you look on their work as something that you want to emulate, then observe it, it's funny. I was talking to a guy, and he was talking about how he just loved this one particular artist, and and that's all he ate and drank, like that, slept until he got out here to California, and he finally got to work with them. And then I was talking about something. I think I did a little paint scheme on this one thing, and I showed it him, and he goes like, "Oh, why would you use those colors? That's horrible." I was like, "Oh, they didn't work." It's like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, that was the two favorite colors that your favorite artist used to use all the time, and you never noticed. So I mean, it's great to not malicious, but yeah, look and see what people do. Watch.
Well, that kind of reminds me, Stephen King again. He said, if you want to be a good writer, be a good reader. You got to read.
Yeah.
Get inspired, see how they do it, that sort of thing, and that I completely agree. I 100%. Where did you complete schooling, or did you just start like apprenticing, or?
I had gone after high school, hung out for a little bit at home, and then decided, that if I really wanted to do this, I needed to move to California. At that time, I found an ad in the back of a Fangoria magazine that was, offering a makeup school, was going to start. And I guess I called right away, and I think I was like the first person to call, to call in on the phone line. But I know I was the first person to sign up, and I mean, beginner's approach to makeup, which is great because I had no idea other than what I read about. It got me to LA. It got me to meet a lot of great people, and from there, you just keep practicing and meeting more people.
Right. Yeah. What's the old adage? Like, it's 10% talent, 90% like networking.
Yeah, well, a lot of it is, but I mean, I don't know. I gotta skew that pyramid a little bit, move that chart, because I mean, it takes for a lot of
it's there, because it's not just the talent and who it's how hungry are you?
Yeah.
How far do you want to go? What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? What's it worth to you? It's all about drive and ambition and ability and talent. And then, there's the luck of meeting people. There's that too. But I completely agree.
I remember there's a saying that, what is it? I gotta remember that. It's one of that saying about opportunity, but basically it's just like, if you got to be ready when the opportunity arises. If you haven't practiced, if you haven't done your skills, if you haven't worked on it, if you can't
desire an opportunity.
You say yes. Is that it? Desire an opportunity.
No. Desire and opportunity are the two things people need to rob you.
Yeah, there's that too.
You remove one.
Yeah.
But I it kind of, it fits for both things. You got to have the desire, you got to have opportunity, and sometimes you have to make your own opportunity.
Yeah. But I mean, I think the most important thing is that you just have to be ready. Doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if you got the opportunity. If you don't feel comfortable saying yes, then you shouldn't. A lot of people know of, will say yes and then kind of try and fake it till you make it. But I don't know if that works that much anymore.
Well, they teach you that in beauty school. They teach you fake it till you make it, girls.
Yeah. But in some instances, the people above you, after about 10 minutes will know, if you lied or on your resume or not.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. I won't get into that. As a salon owner, I won't.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for someone who has the desire to do what you do, and they're just kind of starting out? I'm in Southeast Missouri, so it's extremely rural. There's a lot of cows, not a lot of professional makeup designers. So they don't really have anyone to like, hey, what do you think I should do? What advice would you give to that person?
I mean, to enter the craft, or just to start learning, or
Well, both. Like if their desire is to do what you do for a living, what advice would you give them?
um, well, one of them would be nowadays or these days. We'll start with the learning side first, because you can't get the
Mhm.
job unless you learn. So
Right.
the internet. I mean, that wasn't around, when I started. But like this channel and other channels. I mean, there are so many channels, so much content for anything that you're interested in.
Hmm.
You can type up anything you're interested in, and 1,000 channels will come up, or videos, and you have to take them all with a grain of salt. Some are going to be good, some are going to be not so good, and
Hmm.
you again follow the people that you like their work, or it speaks to you like the way you would want to do work, or that you already do your work, and follow them, watch them, practice, learn. I think the biggest thing that a lot of people do these days is they think they put in the work that they really haven't, and then they kind of wonder why they haven't rewarded. There's no reward. They haven't reaped the benefits of their hard work. um, I mean, I know hard work is, I guess, subjective, but it's kind of not.
Oh no,
um,
I agree with you there. I think hard work is essential. I think paying dues is essential, because if you don't, I mean, how do you even appreciate what it's kind of like? I think about raising kids. My kids' grandma was always replacing toys. I know
mm.
this is going to sound silly, but my
I
son
know
was
exactly
obsessed.
where you're going. I
Yeah,
know exactly.
my
Yeah.
son was obsessed with Black Spider-Man. He couldn't be without it, and he was constantly leaving it places and breaking them and losing them. And she'd just run out and buy him another one. I'm like, but you're teaching him that everything's replaceable and it's easy. All he has to do is go cry about it. And I just don't believe in that one and done. You take
Yeah.
care of it, you'll appreciate it more.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
as my kids got older, you want something, you're going to have to work for it, and then I'll get it for you, or then I'll
Yeah.
give you the money to do it. Because if I just give it to you for nothing, you're not going to appreciate it. And then you're going to leave this
Oh,
house thinking that stuff just gets thrown to you.
yeah.
So
Mm.
I think that hard work is essential in any profession, and that dues have to be paid, because if you don't work for it yourself, you're not going to appreciate it. You're not going to take it seriously. You're not going to put your all into it. So,
100%. 100%. I mean, you see it all you see it all the time. I mean, from anything to, parents who give their kids a car, like you give kids a car. Um, and within a year, it's always crashed. I mean, it's
yeah.
like a given.
Oh, man, my parents, $300 1980 Chevette,
There you
and it was
go.
1998. That was my first car, and I firmly believe
Yeah,
every kid should have just a rust bucket at first that you got to work on and push up a hill at least three
absolutely.
times.
Well, again, because within the first year, it's going to be wrecked.
Yeah,
So make it
yeah,
$200 win, not a
yeah.
$12,000 used car.
That's
Yeah.
called critical thinking skills.
Mm.
So, clearly, I personally enjoy being challenged by raising a bunch of kids by myself and having them yell at me all the time about why I'm not spending money on them. But I like having my imagination challenged. I like my creativity challenged, my skills. What project that you've worked on, and we have established there are ample, but what would you say, what sticks out in your mind as probably the most challenging project?
Wow, I don't know. It's a good question. I mean, because they all are going to propose, some sort of just challenge, even
Hmm.
though it's it seemingly all is the same. It's just kind of like, oh, you sculpt something, you mold something, you run something in, and then you glue it to someone's face. But there's a challenge that either gets dropped on you, like, okay, we need this to be this, and you're like, wow, that's never been done before, or there's some philosophy too, where people, when they get work, they can kind of rest back and go, okay, that's just like that other show, we'll do that. Or you think, oh, okay, how can we do something different? How can we, take it to the next level? Turn it to 11, and
or work smarter, not harder.
There's a lot of that, and you have to, because otherwise, because you really, time is usually our biggest enemy next to money.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you do something within a certain budget, within a certain amount of schedule? And that's always a challenge. I'll tell you a frightening, one of the most, a time that I had, there seems to be like this couple of year period of time where I did these makeups for reality TV shows, and they were going to be like disguise makeups, or one black white TV show where we did race change. We had white people black, black people white, and sent them into the world with video crews, and they had to sell as as that that person, and that was that particular TV show. The producers were, gnarly. They we would do a test, and then they'd come in and just go, looks like makeup, and then they'd leave. And it's like, okay, start again. We did that for a while. We actually, they knew, luckily they knew that the makeup, it was pivotal on the show, because if it didn't sell, if it didn't work, for this person to go out into a grocery store and like talk to somebody 3 feet away, then then the show itself just did not work. So I remember, I think that's been probably one of the only movie shows where I was just like, somewhere huddled in a corner, just going like, this can't be done. This can't be done. This can't be done. Yeah. And that was one. Because it just had to work. In other movies and stuff like that, there's the edit, there's take 2, there's take 3. That doesn't happen here. It just had to work. And then lots of stress,
what was how do I put this? Or we'll just say, what was your the most fun you remember having on a project?
That's easy. I can remember that one. The most fun was Cabin in the Woods, and I was working with David Anderson, for David Anderson, AFX. They were shooting in Canada. I live in Seattle, and back and forth to LA. And I was up here, and they're like, he called me out of the blue and was just like, hey, are you in Seattle? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, we're up in Vancouver. It's just like, do you want to come up on the show? And I was like, sure, and I had my stuff. And that was fun, because it was like a little reunion of some friends that I hadn't seen in a while. I never had really worked for Dig before. So this was kind of, one of the first times us just kind of, meeting. And I remember we just had to make like the end scene, where the havoc's going on. It was, he basically had this wall of prosthetics, all these boxes that he had guys back in the shop running foam at every mold possible, just a thin sheet, whatever it was. And he was just like, okay, today I need you give me 2 zombies, a mutant zombie, something. And then, so we all had our thing to do, and like each one, do it about an hour and a half, and no continuity, because it was just all one-offs of just crazy crowd running around. And I had a buddy of mine, Dave Snyder. There's that guy Mike Fields and Jeff Redknapp. They're these 2 Vancouver makeup artists, really talented. And then I think Dave Anderson was on the last station, and it was just like, ready, go, and everybody, we would just kind of do this whole thing. But you'd see us like, we kind of, me and Dave and a couple of us were like looking down at what this guy's doing, like, and you kind of, do something, and it was just so much fun. There was no set thing, but it was like, okay, it's like a cooking show. It's like, I'll get the same ingredients.
Oh,
but it's your creativity that's going to, win out or just, just have fun. I mean, that was truly like we all, it was just having fun, just throwing stuff together. And
I have always likened my field to baking and cooking, especially when I'm mixing color. I've been doing it so long now that I don't even really need to measure it or weigh it anymore. I'm like, yep, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, whip it up. There we go. You're baking. That's what we call it when they got color on their heads. Like they're baking, they're fine. And if they ever, need someone to do zombies, I can do some amazing things with Elmer's glue and toilet paper.
There you go.
So, I mean, this is a nerd show. This is comics and cosmetics. And I mean, how perfect is this? I have you on this show. But what was like your fanboy moment, your nerd moment? Like which film, which project you were like, oh, this is so cool? Because it's what would you, I mean,
a couple. There's been a couple. I mean, some of them, I mean, we do so much work prep, before we go to set, or you do the prep, you go to set, and like if you're there every day, like on Mandalorian or something like that. But I mean, that had one of those moments where, we just, we started shooting, and I'm trying to remember, first of all, we were shooting in the volume, which was pretty cool. And then I just remember, a couple of us were just looking around, we're seeing little baby Yoda over there, and you're just like, wow. It's like, this is one of those, one of those things that we always kind of felt like, wow, I hope I want to be on that, the bucket list of projects. Another great fun one was during Guardians of the Galaxy, the camera test makeups. We were all out in Peachtree, Georgia. We were all doing the makeups. We'd all gone out there. We did them as a pre-test, and then we did the camera test. And it was just really cool to see all the characters out there. And there's a bunch of the Ravagers. Everybody's in makeup. They're all in costume because they're all okay. This is James' moment to look at everything, for final approvals. And I remember there being all these stunt guys, Ravagers, and characters. Just me and Shane Mahan, one of the owners at Legacy FX. We just looked over there. We're like, yeah, this is why we do it. It's just like it was almost like the hero's march in the movie. It was just really
I think
cool.
I might have passed out. I am such a comic nerd, and Guardians of the Galaxy, those movies are probably my favorite. And when I was watching Scarif Scuttlebutt podcast, that interview you were on, and I had realized, like, I had just kind of come into this community, and they invited me to watch this, and I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't know who was going to be on there. That I saw it was you. I was like, wait a minute, let me double check something. Holy crap. And I about peed my pants. And then, man, you did Ahsoka. You brought Ahsoka to life. You brought her to life, man. That's one of the biggest, fan cheer moments that the Star Wars community has had in decades.
Is it?
And you helped bring her to life.
You know what? There's a whole bunch of people involved in bringing her to life.
Right, but you were on that team. You helped. It was Shake Make and Brian helped.
I'm really happy with that makeup and the way that it turned out. Legacy Effects, they did the head tails for her. And it was interesting because there was a moment, when I realized that, oh yeah, she's going to be on the show. She's coming. It's going to be her. And, my thought was that very thing of, what? The Star Wars fan club, is mighty. It's huge and they're relentless. And there have been other characters in the past that, we've all done something where we just get raked through the coals on like, oh, they ruined it. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's not how it's done. That's, all of it, Apocalypse comes to mind, because there was that real unfortunate, I think, photo that got released to Entertainment Weekly magazine or something, one of those. And it was the three Apocalypse and the two apostles, or two horsemen there, and they had like this weird flashing purple light that was going to be his portal light, and the picture was just all of them purple, and they started calling him Ivan Ooze and the Power Rangers, and I mean it was this whole thing, and and then the studio went a completely different way with the look of Apocalypse than what most fans knew or know. But
I thought he looked fantastic.
I mean, yeah, I mean, but then everybody wanted that, Iron Maiden Eddie kind of, skull thing, and because I think that's how he was done now. I mean, the producers actually went back to artwork, I think, from an early version of Apocalypse that had like those tubes and the thing. I mean,
yeah,
it was along those lines. But yeah, I mean, I would get comments in my, my Instagram or something like that. Saying about how we ruined it, and we did as best a job we could, but if this industry, we're all just guns for hire. We're all doing our thing, and and it's all work. So it's like, okay, you want me to paint a purple pyramid in the middle of his forehead? Okay, I'll do that. Or I can jump on my artistic, mighty horse and say, no, I would never do that, and I quit.
Well, the client is paying you. You've signed a contract. They've hired you to do something. Do you know how many teenage boys ask me to perm the top of their hair right now or give them mullets? All of them. Yeah. But they're paying me, and that pays my bills. So you want me to write a story about a little lawn gnome eating crusty dog turds? I'll do it if you pay me enough. I'm not going to complain. Don't come for me, I'm just
You try not to take it personally when they, but it's just like, because it's
really hard to, because that's your work.
Sure,
that's your calling card. That's your work, and I can completely understand how difficult it would be to separate that, and you put your whole blood, sweat, and tears and passion into it, and people are like, you didn't do the purple triangle. How dare you?
But, going to that, like Ahsoka, like it felt like a responsibility, and not just part of the job. Because one, we knew it had to work, and the creatives on the show were, I mean, obviously this is the sweetheart of the galaxy, and they were very cautious. I mean, they really wanted to make sure it was done right too, and we were given opportunity. What do we need to make this happen? Kind of a thing. And it was test after test. I know I'm gonna have to turn that off. We were allowed to do makeup tests on a body double, and that before we actually got Rosario, so that we could see the tone, the translucency of the makeup, the everything, because that tone is tricky. Just a little bit brighter, and it's Willy Wonka. So it's or it just goes cosplay. It'll go like cosplay really quick, rather than like this realistic version of the anime character. So it was test after test, and just even before the test, it's like mixing and playing and trying to see what will work best.
And I don't think, and I know people don't realize the amount of work and love and time time away from your family, time away from yourself that you sacrifice to create these things. I mean, it's a lot. It's absolute, and not just physically, but mentally. You're trying to go to bed, you're laying there, you can't stop your brain from, well, what if I did this? I should have done this yesterday. What if I did that? I mean,
it's yes, it is, and sometimes it's hard, but I also think it's necessary in
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. I mean, I think for what a lot of people do, sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I'm not that person that 5 o'clock, bell rings, and by 5:01 I'm out the door, and then going home to do what?
Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, because I think I was actually talking to somebody on the last show, and kind of a newcomer, and and I was trying to give them input and help, and they seem to be very pushed back, and like I'm fine, I'll get it, and okay, and and when it came down to it, like things didn't work out the way that they were taking it with the direction they were going, and it's like we've been talking about this for the last month. Use one of those things to go in that direction. Like, well, it's just something you got to think about. I think about it all the time, just because I know that
I can in a very small scale. I can relate.
Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, we all do. I think in a way, just because if I do something one way, I'll keep thinking of even when I'm done and we've shot it, I've flown home, cashed the check. It's thinking, man, what if I would have done that? What if I would have? And I think it's a good tool though, so that you can the next time it comes up. And,
I just went through this myself the other day. I had a client, and color correction, we both know, bit of a fetch. It can, but that's my fun part because it's a puzzle. I like putting that puzzle together. And I was doing a color correction, and just one section didn't quite turn out right because her cuticle was very damaged. So color molecules were coming out. And I said, look, to make sure that I don't wake up 10 years from now thinking about that one time, would you allow me to, do this and that? And she laughed at me. She's like, I can't tell, but go right ahead. Do whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, this is something that does happen. Every once in a while, you'll be laying in bed and suddenly your eyes flash open. You're like, remember that one time in 2008?
I know. Epsom salt.
Shame on you. But I mean, back to the hours and the time that it takes to do this, because it's not just you and your team, it's the actor who's having to sit there and hold themselves this direction for so long and hold themselves that direction for so long. I mean, it's very trying, and I'm sure it wears on their patience, wears on yours, but I really feel like Rosario Dawson made it fun.
You know what she did? Rosario is always up energy, which is amazing. Any time of the day, morning, here early morning. I mean, she's got her level and she's there. Great.
I can see that.
Yeah, and you know what? And she kind of came in same thing. She's like the responsibility of this character, and but I think it had already played in her head so many times, maybe that, it just came really easy to her. I don't know. It seemed like, it worked.
She has a very special place in my heart because I don't know if you can tell, but I'm a little bit of a Wonder Woman geek.
Yeah.
And she's not only been in the first animated movie of Wonder Woman, but she's voiced Wonder Woman, and she did it so well that I'm like, oh, you're my Wonder Woman now. You're just I just love her.
Yeah, no, she's great. She's great energy.
So I want to talk to you. Like, I would love to just sit and pick your brain, but I know we can't, because I would have you here all night. Like, what tools do you use? What's your favorite makeup? Like, what do you do if someone has really bad allergies and their eyes keep watering? I've got like a bajillion questions like that I could ask you, but I won't do that this time. I do tell, like, I've taught and I've had apprentices, and I have clients that, I do their makeup and they ask me stuff. I try to tell them your tools matter. Your tools matter, your materials matter, your cleaners matter. Make sure you keep your stuff clean.
Now I'll say something really important, so you have to keep it in.
Great. Like, I'll go with, is there any just general professional advice that you would have to offer one MUA to another?
Just somebody to come in, or somebody who just wants to make it in. Actually, you know what?
Me.
I can bounce.
We'll say me.
Okay. I mean, I'll bounce this back, to your earlier question, part two of
Mhm.
your earlier question that I didn't answer was, what do you do? What does somebody do after you, practice internet and books? You contact people, and it's just pretty easy to just, roll through the Instagram DMs and just, hit people up. I've, had quite a few people. Everybody who, I've done a podcast for has contacted me, from the internet, and, throw email out there, ask your questions, and, sometimes, you'll hit somebody who will, answer back.
Email Brian about the 1.5 million questions I have about makeup. Done.
Yeah, I mean, it's but that's that's something right now too that as again, it's a fantastic tool if you use it right. You can find the information that you want to learn. You can teach yourself anything almost that I think pretty much that you want to do, and you can reach out, and it becomes fairly harmless. To even just say it's like, hey, got a question about this, or what do you think? And actually, a couple of weekends ago, I was, Skyping, a woman in England, and because she was interested as well. It's like, hey, she sent me artwork, and I just wanted to give her. She wanted my opinion, so I gave her my opinion. I said, I don't want to email this, and can we just like Zoom or something, so I can just talk, and it was much easier to do, and got to reach out. You got to take that step. Make sure you practice so that you're ready to take that step, and show what you can do. And then, you just do it. You just keep doing that. Over and over again. That's that is this world.
So, are you working on anything exciting now that you're allowed to speak about, or?
You know what? I just finished. I was working for a friend of mine, Christian Teasley. We finished up this a vampire film called Renfield, and that was fun. And we'll see. We'll see what happens coming up.
We will definitely be looking
That's
forward
what I
to
just was, actually. I was just in New Orleans. I was just in New Orleans on that vampire movie. Yeah.
I love New Orleans. I would move there tomorrow if physically and financially possible. I would do it. It's beautiful.
And there's some places that are, but I think it's also, that's a town you can do over a weekend. No, just like one good gnarly weekend, and then go someplace else. No, there's a lot of cool energy there, like vibe, with the music.
There really is. That was my favorite part, that I could step outside at any time of the day or night, and there was live music wafting from somewhere, and I would just follow. Come find me. Yes, I will. I love New Orleans. It's so great. Yes. So what does the future hold for Brian Sipe?
I don't know. More time off, I think. No, I mean, the last few years have been pretty full on, and COVID wasn't bothering us. The time before that was busy, and then even right after, it got crazy. A lot of shows went on, a lot of things really fast, and opportunities come up, and we jumped at them to make really cool things. So it's been a whirlwind for a while, and we'll see what happens. I'm waiting to talk to a couple of projects, and hopefully they'll happen.
Well, I will definitely be keeping my eye on your Instagram and your website to see what comes up. And if I email you, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, I mean, I feel, I get busy sometimes, and I know that I dropped emails that I just don't,
Oh, I
running
know you're
around.
insanely
But
busy.
no,
I'm
but I
just
mean,
anxious.
yeah. But I mean, and that's why I said that's my other, my other tip. It's not really a tip. It's just do it. Reach out. You don't have to try and call them anymore. You email them, even if you bug them and send it to their Facebook and their Instagram, and you find their business email address. Send them an email and just say, hey, what's it gonna hurt? They'll delete it
I
or
have
whatever.
to tell you, that first message I sent you on Instagram, as rambling as it was, I had deleted and rewrote it probably 3 times before I was like, yeah, that's the good one. And Sandra was like, what did I just do?
Yeah. And look,
Oh
what I got. Look what I got you.
So where can people find you, find your resume, more information, examples of your work, get to know you more? Where can they find you online?
Let's see. My website is sipe.com. That's I guess my resume. And you can also Brian Sipe Makeup on Instagram. I'll put stuff up there, and I'm going to try and weed off the family stuff and try and keep it just business. But yeah, best place to. And you know what? And I think my email address is in there. So if anybody watches this, then I mean, I'm up for trying to, answer as many questions as I can. So, and and help the next person who becomes,
the next Brian Sipe.
No, you want to be me, that's for sure. But but there's such big talent out there, and it just needs to be, it's frustrating because like we came from a time that we didn't have all this great technology to happen. So really, it's if you don't learn, it's just because you just didn't want to. You can,
Right. It that's on you. I mean, what a time to be alive for makeup artists and designers and SFX. It's just there's so much at our fingertips right now. And I've always said, at least in my field of cosmetology, that if you stop learning, that's death.
Sure.
If you stop, keeping up on the technology and the trends and fashion, what have you, that's just death for you. So I agree with so much of what you've said. That's what I'm saying, I guess.
I think it's generational though. I don't know.
I think you're right. Don't get me started on the youths of today.
Yeah.
There's one about drop kicked in her prom dress across the street earlier. Brian, it has been an absolute pleasure and honor. It has definitely been one of the highlights of my career to have you on here. I know you make that funny face, but I mean, for someone like me, and I'm going to be honest with you, I grew up in Shriners. I spent my childhood in Shriners because I was born very physically disabled. And this is the 80s, okay? There was no internet, and the TV we had was this big and on a wall up there that I'd share with a bunch of other kids. And so what kept me going, what kept my mind from just totally turning to mush and feeling sorry for myself, were the comic books that got dropped off every Thursday. And like, so Wonder Woman, Batman, Star Wars, Green Arrow, Green Lantern, Deadpool, just comic books practically saved me and probably raised me. That could be part of my problem. But being able to see these characters brought to life on the screen for people like me, it's almost a religious experience. That's the only way I can explain that. It's this person or this entity that's walked beside you your whole life and has lived rent-free in your brain for so long. And finally, you get to see them on screen, walking and talking. And it makes them real for you. Like you're meeting this entity that's been meant so much to you face to face for the first time, and you have helped bring some of those characters alive for people like us. That's a big freaking deal, man. And I know you think it's silly that I would just be absolutely ecstatic and honored to meet you, but you've done something for me and other people. You know, like the Sleepwalkers movie. I know it's a silly movie. I know it is, but I have memories attached to that. With watching it with my dad and my little brother, the Star Trek movies. I took my son to see those movies, my oldest son, and he gets really mad at me if I go see a Star Trek movie or anything without him. That's something very special to us. The Guardians of the Galaxy movies, they are my favorite of the Marvels movies. And my kids and I, all four of them, went and saw those at the drive-in together, and they talk about that stuff all the time. You created something very special. You've created memories and moments with families, and that is something to be very proud of. And absolutely, I'm honored that you came on my show today, and I cannot thank you enough.
No, I mean, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Keep
You
doing it, man.
Sometimes what we do, it's kind of what we do, and like when you say, like finding a passion or something like that. Like I don't even know what I would, other than cooking. I don't know what else I would do. But it's I don't know. It's nice to see it appreciated on a different level, and coming from a different place. And it's nice to know that something that we do, our craft or art, does actually, on a different level.
It matters. It matters, and it is appreciated. And I use this loosely, but as another professional, I'm in a different, much smaller arena. Branch.
I'm sure there's no way I could do the stuff you do. So then don't sell yourself.
There's no way. I mean, I would love to do the things that you do, but coming from another professional, your work is absolutely appreciated, and I'm a huge fan. I'm an absolute huge fan, and I just keep saying it, but thank you so much for coming on my show, for telling me to get in touch with you. Like I squealed. I about threw my jaws.
That's right, because it was over the show, right? I appreciate having an ear to talk to for a bit, and it's nice. And back to saying, like, reach out and email. I like that there's interest. If I see somebody showing interest, I'm not going to turn away. I'll help, because I want to see. I've had a great dream that came alive, and I was able to do all this stuff, and everybody should try. I want to, if I can help, then great.
Well, I'm so glad I turned on the Scare Scuttlebutt podcast that day, because this has just been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I have one more thing. Then. I have one more to tell you.
Go for it.
And this is one that you'll appreciate.
Okay.
One of those moments. It just popped into my head. On Star Trek, the first J.J. Abrams. I was working. Joel Harlow was the guy who was the makeup effects designer on that show, and he brought me in to help do some background makeups and then help with Nero's makeup. And I remember one day being in the main trailer with Joel, and I was kind of like from behind, just kind of, between chairs, and so I just kind of like, moving out of my way, and I turn and look, and it's Leonard Nimoy, sitting in the chair and to get his ears on. And it's like, yeah. So that's one of those moments where it was like, wow, okay.
I just stopped breathing.
That's a, what makeup book do you pick up and his picture isn't?
You throw it away.
I know. Any history
on ever Spock once.
Yeah. So, that was, it was neat, because again, it's, childhood, all those memories come back and you're like, yeah, this is like one of those reasons why I'm doing this. And pretty cool.
That's an understatement, man. That's a legend. You turned around and like, oh, I just bumped into Spock, nitpick.
Yeah. How bizarre. For a while, you're just kind of like, okay, wait.
Did that just happen?
Is this going on? You're like in your head, you're thinking about this. This is the Matrix now. And I know.
Looking for the black cat to walk by. Oh my gosh. Brian, thank you so much for coming on Comics and Cosmetics. And I really hope I get to continue to keep in touch with you, because it's just been just a pleasure. This has been so cool.
You know what? I mean, I'll come back every 4 weeks. Every 4 shows, we'll do this. A wrap up.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back again. And thank you. And it's a lot of fun.
Thanks again. And thank you, Nerdlings, for hanging out. We will see you in the next one. Bye. Hey, Nerdlings. Thanks for hanging out with me and Brian today. It has been an absolute treat getting to sit and talk to him. It was really hard not to go full fangirl the entire time. I know I didn't do a very good job keeping a lid on it, but can you blame me? Again, guys, make sure you hit like, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Maybe do it again just to make sure, because sometimes that YouTube gets you. And ring the bell to make sure you get notified whenever I'm back with a new video. Of course, we're on all the socials. All you got to do to find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter is just search Comics and Cosmetics. We now have a Patreon. We have 3 different tiers, and you get extra content. You get tutorials, a little behind the scenes, something. And if you hit that top tier, I'll send you a t-shirt. That's right. I will send you some merch. So do it. You want that shirt, right? It's pretty cool. Speaking of merch, we have merch. So check out our store on TeePublic right here. We got all kinds of swag. We've got shirts, hoodies, tank tops, baseball shirts, travel mugs, coffee mugs, phone cases, you name it, it's there with 3 different designs. Pretty cool. Thanks again, Nerdlings, for hanging out with us today. Have an awesome and wizard weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.